Good to see you. Welcome to UI Mondays. My name is Alyssa Nichol. Today, lucky you, I am doing some UI work in an Angular app that I'm building for a podcast that I'm a part of called Angular Air. And we might actually have guests today. What is going on? I forgot. I did invite my friends from Angular Air, so they might pop in on the show. We'll see. But I'm really excited because we're going to be going and just kind of building out some UI elements today for the calendar app that we're building. I'm going to show you this. This is for those of you who don't know, this is kind of some views from Calendly. And we are trying to build out our own version. Let's go ahead and open this with preview. And I've got a couple of things for inspiration. And I'm really excited to talk UI with you all today. What is that not really how you zoom? I don't know. I'm just going to manually blah, 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 blah. So this is the view where you're actually looking at a scheduled, I guess a little bit smaller. You're actually looking at a scheduled event. And that's the view that I was working on. So let's go ahead and start up our server. What do I have running here? Hide that screen share thing. I know that trips some people out. So just yell at me if you're one of those people. And I'm going to put you all, then I can't jump in today. I love you all. Okay, I'm gonna put this over on the right. I actually have a new one that goes super small. Perfect. And we're gonna pull up, let's see, terminal. So this is the app, and you might be like, what's she doing? I know, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a mono repo, and it's got a lot going on. And I also have this like make your eyes bleed red going on with it. I think that really inspires me to do better. On the UI. I was working on this idea that I got from one of John Papa's websites. Yes, we steal ideas here. Feel free to have a guiltless conscience the next time you design some UI and you steal it. Okay, so Angular app using Storybook to build out some UI. And for those of you who are like, what the heck is Storybook? I'm so glad you asked. I'm going to show you. Get inspired by ideas. Yeah. Seriously, though, I want to see if any of you are like, oh, I have this one site. It's my total jam. It inspires me. I want to see it. Send me it your way. I have an inspiration folder, and it might kind of weird you out. Let me show you one of the. This one's from the Adjustments Bureau. I found it very inspiring. My husband's like, why is this in your inspirations folder? The colors, the lines. I don't know. I could definitely see designing something after this, but I want to see what inspires you. Yeah, that's how weird. Okay. I don't know what's going on with our button. Let's see if my episode detail component that I started out, how she's doing. I don't know if I need you controllers / actions right now because I'm just working on UI. Here's the really, 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 really good documentation inspires me. Do you have any like, what the heck is Storybook? Oh yeah, I was answering that question. So here is my very butchered, what is Storybook? Because I am still new to Storybook. Helps you like design your front end by seeing the visuals in a very atomic way. And so someone who's like, my husband is using Storybook in a React app, and he is like actually building out like, here's a button, here's an input, here's, a link. And so I started doing that. Our buttons are broken for some reason. It's really funny because, of course, the last time I checked them, they were just fine. But I am trying this thing where I pull out styles and then inherit them so that we can, have some reusable bits, but also have some overall brand bits. But yes, Storybook is, we can see here, I think Mike built out I know Justin built out the user coin component here. And as I was saying, the hard part about doing UI and streaming is that I really want this to be like this big for the stream. But when we start to design, my fonts and my sizes are going to be all jacked up for the default because, I'm zoomed crazy in. Although, some people believe that your fonts and your UI should just be this big by default. So I don't know. Storybooks isn't by default. But anyways, hey, Salt, what's up? Robert said, good documentation. The BBC created a pretty sophisticated storybook and it's public. Yeet. Let's check it out. I'm all about getting sidetracked today. BBC, Storybook. What are you all drinking? I know it's a weird question, but I really like to know. Mine's this iced coffee that's kind of disappointing me. With a cup that I would love to know. I'm just going to go ahead and hold it up. And there's also like milky coffee in it and a green straw. So that's going to throw your perspective. But I would love to know if you all see blue or green. Me and my husband argue about this all the time. I'll tell you what color I see in a minute. And again, you know, the light's in here, but do you see blue or green? It's for their iPlayer. I see green. Yeah, green shell razor. Everybody's seeing green. Interesting. He calls them the green cups. I call them the blue cups. But we have many times where we're like, we'll call something like, and it'll be right on that edge. Like it has blue and it has green in it. I know that. I see that. But like, I like the blue cups. And it always takes me a minute. Maybe this is it. I probably should have read around before. Let me know if there's a link. Turquoise. Shorty. That's taken a hot second to load. So anyways, Shorty built out these user coins. And of course, it's for our Angular Air website. AngularAir.com. Oh yeah. And you'll be happy to know, Shorty, and maybe this is why everything's broken to pieces. I went and I got the fonts that you're using, and I also color picked the colors, and I've started us a nice little branding bits here. So we've got our AA colors. That's my shortcut for Angular Air. I'm using that prefix. I also have sizes. If you have not heard me talk about sizes and why I named them after animals, let me know in the chat and we can go down that rabbit hole today. But I'm loving that convention, I think is the right word for it. This is our red. This is our light blue. This is the grays and a blue. So I found all of these. I heard a bloop, which means somebody has joined us. But anyways, so Shorty, of course, saw that we're using these user coins. So he built it out as a component in our blippity blip here. But, there you are, Mike. Aha. Hello, darling.
I'm here for the blippity blips.
Are we fat shaming whales now? Now I have to remember what I said. What I said something negative against whales. Elden Rings has some giant T-Rex dogs. Oh, fat shaming whales because of my sizes. No, man, we can go up from a whale. What's bigger than a whale? Is a T-Rex bigger than a whale? It depends on what kind of whale. We should really specify the whale type.
I don't know if I want to stay.
I mean, Braco.
Oh, I know that guy.
Why can't I call you Broco? Why?
Because I don't know who that is.
Oh, fine. I mean, if it makes you feel any better, people call me Speed Dog Girl sometimes. So
I can make that happen. I got lights too.
You got lights? Let me see your face. I see your face is very little. It's a very little face.
I was snacking. I had to finish my snack before I came on.
2 whales, a black hole, a red star. Stars could be a good naming convention, but also I feel like I would run out of star names. Animals are so easy to reach for.
But our black hole's really big.
Oh, I feel like that would
the area in which they pull in is rather large, but I think the black hole itself is like infinitely small. I
think we could use black hole for like a responsive thing, you know, when we're like defining, like we're doing some math in Sass and we're like, you know, this is going to be responsive based on this other thing's size and it's the black hole. I think we could do that. That could be a good use of it. You built out episode form, I think.
Yeah, it's really ugly. There's like no CSS there.
No, and I mean, we're going to get to that. Like whenever I build out like the button, we'll pull in the button. When I build out the input, we'll pull in the input. But I like this because it shows off the two different
two different stories.
Is it a story? I thought the episode form component's a story and these are like flavors of that story.
Kind of. I don't remember the naming convention inside there. I don't have the code open.
But I know that this is it's like a really good use, especially even for things like my husband was showing me on buttons. He had or different like stack layouts that he has. He'll have like the different versions of how you use that component or components together. And so it's a really powerful way of showing your team and building out your UI. And so I'm really excited about using it. I need to debug our button, figure out why she's broken. I think maybe it doesn't have. And this was another thing I wanted to ask you,
There's
Mike,
no
because
content in the middle of it.
I was getting a little lost, and sometimes I do that. I get lost. Can I show you this? So I've got our button here, and I've got our button component here. Oh God. And then I was like, oh, I should put ng content here, maybe, because I want whatever, like, because I'm going to pass that button in, for example. I'm going to pass it into episode details, but maybe I should put like defaults content or like some default button like that. You see what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying with my words? And then
I
it could be
understand
like
what you're saying, but I don't
should be like that,
agree
or
with
I
you.
don't know. What the frick do you? What should it be? Help me!
I think the markup for this component looks fine. However, go to the stories. Go to the stories where it's actually driving this component.
What do you want from me? This?
The stories file in your editor.
Oh, okay. Story file. Oh, I don't like this. The primary args stressed me out. I went and I was looking at your primary args in your episode form, and I almost had a meltdown. I was like, oh God, he's doing the dots, and then he's adding a form action, and it was just too much.
So that brings up an interesting point.
What?
So in Storybook, I don't know how to supply what would go into the ng content. Because here we're just setting properties, and I'm not sure how to specify.
See, this, I think this goes back to, I made a to-do for Justin actually somewhere in, was it this story? This one? Because I was like, we need to build it out. Is it episode form? Who has it? Social links. Yeah. One of them, I wanted to go ahead and throw, I'm going to search for Justin's name in all caps because that's how it's going to be. There it is. The stack component. So I want to pass in like what type of element I want this to be. And maybe you know how to do this. Maybe that's like outside of stories. But if we go to the stack component, he's who I'm using. It's like absolutely nothing, but he's who I'm using to make a default flex column or a flex row. But I also thought it would be really cool to like pass in, oh, I want this to be a main horizontal stack, or I want it to just be like a div stack. So do you know how to do that, Mike? Like based on what like I'm passing in, swap out the HTML. Is that a stories thing? Like would you do that in here?
What do you mean by swap out the HTML?
I mean, so let me show you. So we've got, actually, I'm going to show you my episode details, this one. So here I've got these little stacks, right? And they are wrapping each one of these. And I was thinking it'd be really cool if I could just put like an attribute on it, and I could say like, maybe I'll have to like set it equal, like element equals main, or maybe I just say main and it's like an attribute and like we just like rip it off of there. But then like it makes it main, or it makes it a div, or it makes it a section. You see what I'm saying? Like based on that attribute. And then like that's the wrapper now. So like stack is now main, and it inherits all those styles because it's a stack. But it itself, its wrapper outer goodness is main. Do you get it? Am I like really butchering this?
Yeah, but that kind of goes away the principle of what you're trying to do with a component. You're making the component aware of where it's being used, and the component shouldn't care.
I don't understand. Why am I making it aware of it's being used? Like it's reusable, like it can go anywhere, and I can then give it more semantics, right? Like that's not proper.
Yes, but you're saying main because that's where it's going to be used, in the main area, right?
I'm saying main because I want it to be a main element, an HTML element, or I want it to be a div, or I want it to be a button. See what I'm saying? Like I am telling it what DOM element to be. You got it? You're not with me? Main is a semantic DOM element, just as section is.
No, I got you. Okay, I understand what you're saying now. I disagree with the use case that it's encapsulating that logic, and you shouldn't specify how it's being rendered.
Why is it bad? Why is it? I don't understand.
What's the purpose of trying to do that?
So I want to have.
If you want it to be a button, put it inside a button.
because I want to inherit all of these things that Stack has. Like I want like this flex and this gap and this direction, or I want to change the direction, right? Like it's
okay. So in that case, what it's getting rendered inside, whether it be a button or an anchor tag or whatever, would be a concern outside of that component, just how it's being used. So if you want it inside of a button, put the stack inside a button.
Is that not an Angular concept to swap out the outermost element, like of a component based on something? Like that's not a thing. Like people don't do that. They just make the element.
No, because I mean, if you think about it, then you're not encapsulating the logic of what the component is. It's an encapsulation issue.
Robert's asking, would you put main in a footer? I don't know. I like main and section for me are like more semantic divs. So if you've got like some content on the page that you want a screen reader to jump to. So I don't know. It depends on how ridiculously important your footer is, maybe. Disagreeing with the host of the show, dangerous. Host context. Primary.args. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Wait, what's host context? Is that what I need in Angular? Mike, tell me what it is. I'm going to do this real quick because it's really bothering me. And I know you said that you hate this, but like, I don't have anything rendering right there by default. And it's driving me crazy. Oh God.
so you want to render content inside of there, right?
Okay, let me show you. I'm past. I think I know what you're asking. Episode form details. He has reschedule and he has cancel. So like, yes, I want to pass in something or have a default value. Are you angry with me? What? I don't know what face you're making.
No, that's fine. But you're trying to drive that from the story. You shouldn't. This should not be a concern of the button. The button, in order for the button to function, somebody needs to give you some sort of content to put inside of it, right?
Or can't I just have a default? I don't know.
What's the default for a button?
To just some text.
Even better. What's the default content for an HTML button?
I just wanted it to say default button. I don't know what you're for our brand. I'm confused by your questions. You're confused.
If you were doing straight HTML and you create a button tag.
Yeah. I'm going to show you. It just has text. What are you talking about?
No, it has nothing. No.
Yes. No, it has something. We have to have something so we can show our styles off. What is your problem with my button, man? And now I'm like, oh, hey, there's no space between these two elements. So I'm going to throw in a stack.
Stop.
Look at that.
Okay. You want to show off different kinds of buttons, but you're trying to drive that from the component rather than trying to drive it from the story.
I don't understand stories now because I just thought it was kind of like a fancy way of showing your Angular inherited components that are already doing their things. And now you're saying there's also another way of organizing logic?
No, you're trying to put logic into the component itself. You're trying to mess with the button component HTML. I'm saying don't do that.
I don't know what you would prefer. What would you prefer?
Get rid of that. Get rid of the stack. Buttons don't need to be in stacks.
Okay, but can we make it work? Can we make it work real quick? I always get lost in this part of like, so I really need I need the practice. If I wanted stack in here, what the frick do I do?
You don't. No button. No stack. No stack. Just button.
Fine. We're just going to have this and we're just going to be content and we're going to make him very happy.
Perfect.
And there's your button. Empty
button is a button and it can show stuff inside. What you're upset about is that as you look at your button, it doesn't have anything inside of it. Correct?
Right.
So good. Justin's here now. Welcome, Justin. So what I want to try and drive is from the story, how do we specify that this is the content to go inside the button?
Okay, you want me to use the story's arguments? Is this what you're saying with your words? And you want me
I
to say
don't
like,
know. I don't know if it's args. I don't know how to drive Storybook in that regard.
Yeah, it's args. Hey, how's it going?
hi, hi.
All right. Did you, in your button component, did you create an input?
But do you really want this to be an input to show like button text, or do we want it to allow the ability to render the inner HTML, like inner components?
So here's the question I would ask is that in terms of when you're building a button and you want to have control over that button's API, like is the intent, if you're going to use like a button element inside of that to render your button, right? There's requirements around HTML semantics about what is allowed inside of that button element tag. So do you control that from your component saying, I'm expecting a string of text that I want to render in the button, and I'm going to control it through the API? Or do I want to allow flexibility that the parent could say, send me whatever? You would still need to say, okay, but there's restrictions because I'm going to put this in a button element, right? So if I put an ng content inside a button element, then somebody could put tags like a header tag or whatever tags that maybe semantically aren't supposed to be in a button tag and get you in a situation that you don't want to be in, right?
Well, I think we could have both. Like we could have a safe button element and then we could have a crazy button element, because if you look at our site, we're doing some pretty funky stuff here with what I would call a button. And so I want to be able to have a normal button for a submit, like for a form submit. And then I want to have a specialized button that we can pass in whatever. So both, and Justin, you weren't here when we were asking this. Are these called flavors? What are, like when you go pre-filled and primary, are these each their own stories? Or is the episode form component the story and these are like versions of that story?
I refer to them as scenarios for the story.
Scenarios.
So you have a story for a component, or you have a story for something. Okay. And then those subnavs are like the scenarios for that story, right? So a scenario with it pre-filled, a scenario with it as primary, which would be like the default, right?
Okay.
Like if you set it up, yeah.
So I feel like our button component should have two scenarios. One that's a primary, just boring button, and then one that's like our fancy button that can be past anything.
So the way I approach it would be, I would look at it and say, what are the requirements of that UI that I'm building? And is it distinct? Because it's really low effort for me to build another version of it, right? I can have a gazillion components and decide not to use them or decide when to use them. Especially when we talk about a component library, it's this idea of building up this inventory of things. And then you start thinking about, like, I think about maintainability and uniqueness. And like, I try not to get too deep into a UI component doing too many things. So if I start seeing and saying like, I want a version where it's a button element inside of it that's going to render some text, like a submission form, right? That would be one component that I create, a UI component. If I said I want some richer button that could support, full-fledged, like kind of a behavior of a button, but the UI could look something way bigger than just a string of text inside of a button, right? Then I'd look at creating another UI component that handles that type of presentation. And then the user could just decide, the consumer of that would decide, I want to use this button component or that button component. Rather than getting complex with our button saying, okay, well, depending on what the parent told me, I will either render a button element or I'll render a div that acts like a button because it's clickable, but allows you to render this full like panel of clickable, right?
So for this, like very basic default button that's just being passed in text, do you agree with what I've done so far? Do we need to, I don't know, back up a step?
I would define it as an input, and I would take the input and I would have a default value for the text. So like you want to say continue or whatever you want as your default. And then if allow somebody who uses your component to pass in the input of the button text, right? To override it with a new one. Okay. And then all your UI component cares about is rendering the UI for a button, right? The text is dynamic for its particular view model, doesn't care. It cares more about the presentation of the button itself, the styling of it, the interaction with it, that sort of thing.
So kind of similar to this, where we're just gonna, but instead it'll just be like button content or something ish.
How about text?
Text, yeah.
Button text or text.
We're happy with that. Okay, let's do it. But I'm inside. Oh, sorry. You were defining all of yours inside the class. We don't have a constructor on any of these because we don't need a constructor on any of these. I deleted them, so hopefully that's okay. Because I think that's what you did, Mike. You had no constructor, you had no ng on in it. It's just like empty, no nothing.
Yep. You don't have to have them just to have them. If you're not using them, then don't use them.
Angular core. And then we're saying we are going to go ahead and do this. And then,
I disagree with Justin on this one, that I would not put a default text in there. I think that.
But then you can't. That's my problem of like, then when you go here, you can't.
Why not? You could specify that as part of the args. It's an input that you can set.
Yeah, see, args, I don't really understand what belongs in args.
Okay, so we'll get there. Let's talk really quick about the default text, right? It's thinking about what do you want to have the usability of this component, right? Do you want to ship it and say like, it comes packaged with a default state, right? In terms of a button, if we were to call this like the continue button or the form submission button, maybe this was called the form submission button, then a default text of submit would potentially make sense, right? That somebody could use it, not have to set the text. It would come pre-filled with a text called submit, designed to be a form submission button. If we're talking more granular, more atomic at a lower level, where we say this is just the button that renders the thing, then it's really like, here's the UI. You tell me what text to render. I'm not going to pre-fill the text with anything because I have no idea what you want it to be. And so it could start with an empty string, right?
So I think mine was more neither. It was just like, I guess both. I want it to be a generic button that I don't want like default button, obviously, to ship with it, but I don't want submit either. So I want them to have to specify what goes there. But for our storybook purposes, like when I'm showing off our components and when I'm showing off, because I even want to have like a colors story that has all our colors or, all our gradients or all our variables. Like, so when they're in this view, I need to have some text there. And so I don't know how to make it just for the storybook side of things.
All right, I'll show you how to do that. But this is the badass thing about Storybook is that it shows you how the component could actually be used, right? So it gets you thinking about the fact that like you're assuming it's going to be used this way, but this helps surface the fact that it could be used the way you see it on the screen right now, right? If we don't have a default text and somebody puts it on there and doesn't set that input, you would see this. And so now we get visibility to kind of like take away our pre-made assumptions that we might have as we develop it and get real world, like hard answers of, hey, if I just put it in there, somebody could use it this way and Storybook, and I can see that, oh, well, should I consider a default value? Because there is a potential that somebody could throw it on their parent component just like this and get this situation, right?
I see. So you're saying it is safer to ship it with a default value because people might just slap it in there.
I'm saying that this Storybook helps you surface that you need to make that decision, right? Okay. Whatever you land on is fine, as you have intent to land on it. But you see that like, if I put it here, it's potential that somebody could use it with no default. So I, as a developer of this component, want to think about, should I ship it with some default text? And we just kind of talk through that. Like, it probably doesn't make sense to do that because this is a general button and I can't make an assumption about what default text you might want. So then maybe I should make it so that my button doesn't render if I don't have any text. So there's never a broken UI. So it supports like kind of a fallback of like, I'm just not going to render the button if you didn't give me text. So
how do we do that?
Button, right?
How do we do that the proper way? Like essentially saying this is a required parameter. You don't get a button without giving me this. Is that where we say no text passed in, no button for you?
That would be a feature request to Angular.
That's where things get tricky, right? With the input,
What
like
do
there's
you
not
mean
really a way.
feature
You can type your inputs, but there's not really a hard way to say, look, if you use this, you need to have this input. It is required, right?
Oh.
And that's kind of a challenge that I face with Angular, is that you don't have a way to enforce that. So
I see.
You can then kind of take and start doing protective measures on your own as you're building your components to think about how could you ergonomically support what's not there.
G Leader was asking about adding Storybook to an Angular project. How hard is it? And by the way, if you're just now joining us, this is a continuation of what we're doing on our Angular Air podcast right now. So join us on Fridays. We'll be building out more in this Angular project. But Justin, can you answer that as far as like how hard was adding Storybook to this for you?
Yeah, so this is an NX repo. So NX comes with some schematics or generators to generate Storybook inside of that NX repo. So it's really straightforward. Even if you're just using a regular Angular CLI generated repository, I think Storybook has some, it might even have an ng add command for Storybook, but I think Storybook has some ways that you can get that into an Angular repository as well.
Button. I'm going to steal you, and I'm going to do you down here. And then I'm going to say, I don't know if this is wrong. I'm sure I'll make Mike upset. Entry model is equal to the text. Yeah.
So now you're putting submit button kind of concept, form submit button type of concept into this button component, right? So are you building a submit button for a form, or are you building a general button for use no matter where it's at? That's what I would question then.
Should we allow them to pass in a type? And also, yeah, should we allow them to pass this in? No. Like if they want to type? No. Yes, no. You don't have thoughts?
I do have thoughts.
Why you no tell me thoughts?
So here's where I go next. I start looking at and going, okay, how do I want people to use this, right? If we want to say, well, what is the goal? Is the goal to define the look of a button, right, in a consistent manner and make it easy for somebody to use our library to just say, render a button and it's going to be an Angular Air button, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if that's the case, then what I think about is I need the styling that goes along with it, right? Maybe some CSS, styling that goes along with hover state or things like that. At that point, do I need any logical rules happening in terms of when you click a button, when it binds up to something, or do I just need that styling? If I need that styling, then maybe I'm looking at creating a selector for my component that targets the button element, the native button element. So it doesn't have to actually have a template that puts the button element inside of it.
Oh,
then that way it's
just go and have no markup and just be like, do we even have ng content on that? Because then we would throw whenever we use button inside of episode details, we would, instead of having AA button, it would be like this. That.
Yep.
No. And then and it would be, oh God. I think we said text equals cancel. And then I don't pass it anything. So kind of like that, but then how would he change? Because does he still get ng content? No. Yes. Nope. No. Wait. No, but we still have to say text goes here. How does it know?
You might not need text anymore. Now you're providing an ergonomic way for somebody to use native DOM elements.
Oh, you're saying just put text in there. Like this. Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you now. I am understanding. Is this what people mean when they say dumb components? And I know we're not supposed to say that word anymore, but
presentation components.
Yeah, is that what they mean or no?
It's a combination of two things here. One is the idea of using semantic HTML, that we're not actually trying to override what a button is to use the built-in pieces there, but still allow us to attach Angular functionality to existing DOM elements.
Can you say all of that again one more time? Sorry. I'm here.
Okay. So we're not reinventing the wheel.
Uh-huh.
We are just reusing existing DOM functionality.
So that is what they mean when they say presentational component, right? No. Yes.
No, detach that. Presentation component means that anything that component needs or exposes is fully encapsulated within there. It's not making any calls to services to go get data. It's not making any external calls. It just works through inputs and outputs, and that's it.
GLeader, wouldn't you need an output for the click event or callback function? I guess so. We haven't even gotten to... My styles aren't even showing up, but I mean, sure, we can make the button work.
So go back to your styles.
Yeah. Styles are fine.
So you want to do :host because you want to style whatever this component is targeting, right? So if we change the selector for this component to be an attribute selector, then what we're saying is Angular is going to find that element with that selector on it, right? And when it finds that, if we do :host, we'll be styling whatever that's on. So we'll be styling the button element at that point.
Why is it not getting it? Like, it's not working.
Go back.
I had this with Stack too. Like, Stack's not getting my styles.
Same thing. So go back to the component TS file. Your selector is still specifying that it's supposed to be selecting based off of the tag name.
Oh.
But you've moved it to be based off of an attribute, so you need to change your selector.
To what?
Surround that with brackets.
Oh, you're saying make it an attribute. Oh, I understand. If it has an attribute of that. Oh, can you leave selector blank? Is that possible? No, that's not a thing.
No, you need to.
That's interesting.
What? No.
You might be able to.
Laughing?
I'm just laughing because I'm like trying to process what would happen if you did that. Like from the code say, I'm laughing at the engine and the code itself, not you. Like what could happen? It'd be fun.
It's like 1000% not working.
Okay, so a couple things, like go back to your component.
This one.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so the next thing I would think about is where do you want people to use this attribute selector on? Like only buttons, right? Like, do you want them to put it on divs or articles or anything like that? Or
they can put it on anything they want to style as a button, right?
That's a good question.
Because like we have it all over our website. So if we want to support this crap.
Wow, crap, huh? I was trying to explain that I wasn't laughing at you, but now you're saying my button that I created for the website is crap.
No.
I know.
No. Okay. No, this stuff. Sorry, I cuss too often. I will cut that out of the vocab. But no, I'm just saying this is not a button in the normal sense. And so if we want to do something custom like this,
it's a link that looks like a button, right?
Right. So I feel like, I mean, I see what you're saying. Were you saying you wanted to make sure like they had it on a button like that?
No, you could do that, right? If you say like, look, the intent of my component is to be designed to only use on the button element, that you could put just what you did there to ensure that the usage of it is how you want it,
on the
right?
Button. Right.
But that's the question that you asked and the way you thought about it. Exactly what I would go through is, do I want that? Do I want to provide, styling and this stuff that somebody could put it on a div or whatever else they wanted, or an anchor tag or something like that, right? Yep.
It's not Varking button entry content.
Okay. So you've got almost everything, right? You've got the style there. You just don't have the text, right?
Yeah.
So let's go back to your component. And actually in your HTML file for your component, we do need an ng content.
Oh, we do?
And that will do the content projection for whatever.
Because I'm sticking stuff inside of this guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you Okay, so I think this is why AA stack might not be working, because I think I need to do the exact same thing to stack. He's got NG content, but I think for his component, he needs to be, I mean, I'm using him as an element, but
before you get into stack, let's finish through button.
What?
Let's finish button before we get into stack.
But stack's not giving my gap here, and it's driving me crazy.
All right, that's a different issue. Let's get through button.
Stack's gonna have to wait.
Fine, we will put stack on hold, but I swear if we don't get to stack today, I'll be angry. All right, next thing.
So hold on.
Looks perfect. Look,
you're also not in the button story. Let's look at the button story.
No, we can't go to button story. She's angry.
Well, that's what we need to fix, because we can't go into other places that are using button until we finish button.
People are being punny in chat. They know I like puns. All right. So button doesn't have a default value in our story, and that is why we're going to go back and do this glorious thing that Alyssa suggested. That makes all the boys in the yard.
Justin, I'm going to grab that from you and I'm going to send it up.
Right?
That's beautiful. Let's do this. Get rid of these. I think maybe we don't need that.
Nope. Bye-bye.
You want me to do like, I don't know. Are we going to do
Go to the story. Go to the story. Go to the stories TS.
Oh.
Yeah. Go to stories TS. All right. Ditch that line 21.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's see. Where do we put this? We need to use a template string instead of the component for our primary scenario. I need to find out how to do that in the new Storybook API.
Okay, let's find out. Hang on, I'm going to do it. Template, string, Storybook, Angular. Yeah?
Oh, so Justin, as we were looking at that, the template and those args, that's specifying what the parent component that's driving the view is. Okay. And you're looking at specifying this is the template metadata for that parent component that's driving our button.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
This dollar story, dollar curly. Is that what you're talking about? No. Yes?
No, it's let's see.
Hello, if you're just now joining us, welcome to UI Mondays. My name is Alyssa, and these are my two cohorts in crime. I don't know if they're above me or below me. I'm just going to do this.
So individually, does that make me a hort?
Yeah.
If together we're cohorts?
I've always thought of you. I've always thought of you as a hort.
Broco the hort. Got it.
But do you hear a who? Oh, that's Horton.
That is exactly it. We woke up and chose violence today. Welcome. They don't like it when I do things, when I get creative in my HTML. They get upset, and it's fine. It's fine. I'm down for learning about how to do template strings in Storybook. Apparently, this is not the way, so I'm going to go find a different article. Okay. Actually, I'm going to style the hover state real quick. Hover, you. And instead of that, we're going to say, so we're in SCSS. So instead of doing this, I'm just going to use my ampersand so that my host selector is there. And then I'm going to say on hover. And we're going to get rid of this plumbly. And then we're going to use some sort of fun mix in. I think scale is probably the way we're going to want to do it. Background color is scale color. Yeet. This is exactly what I wanted. Okay. And then this is a variable, but I wanted to talk to the boys about passing variables and stuff. So we're going to make it local real quick, just so that nobody yells at me in the chat. And we're going to be like, here's my red color. And I'm going to pass my red color here. And then I'm also going to pass it to my scaly bits. And $red And then, whoa, what did I just do? Yes. Yes, that's what oh no, I need to do AA red. I thought this might happen. For all of our colors, I thought to myself, we should probably give them prefixes. I did not. I just left them like this. So that's going to probably have to change. I think we may need to name it AA red, AA blue, etc., etc., because I think we're going to run into this problem, but maybe not. Maybe we're fine with just the color name being passed. And then we're going to scale it. I just want to scale it. I think I wanted to get lighter. So we're going to scale. I wonder if I can just skip all this goodness. I think I can. Pass in the color I want and then pass in like the lightness, not the alpha. Okay, so then we're going to say like lighter by 50% and just see if that actually does something on hover. Yeah, that's what we want, but not that much. And obviously we need to transition it. So we're going to say 20%. And then on the main element itself, transition, background color. Are you not? It's not auto. Background color 0.3 seconds ease. Sure. It's too slow and that's too pink. 10% and 0.2 seconds. Okay. And we might need to, if we actually go to something that has text on it. I was going to say we might need to make that. I'm okay with it for now. He's fine for an initial go at it. He has a hover state now. Is this all proper? It would belong here. It's not like I need to make another scenario in the story that's like primary and primary dash hover or something. Like it just belongs to the button, right? So we're fine with it hovering.
Yes, Storybook is just rendering your component, right? Gives you a home to render it like an app. Yeah, all the stuff that you just did is all about the responsibility of the component that you're building.
Okay.
Right.
Justin, did you find what you were looking for?
I think so. Go to the stories TS file for this component, please. Let's see. Where is this? So there's another, like after line 15, you could put template, colon, and then put a string there. And that string will be, you know, the same way you're using that button, right, from a parent. So give a button element with your aaron button, and then just put some text inside of there. Yeah.
Wait, I'm confused. Yo, what? Shut up.
Okay.
Wait. Did it work for everywhere? Why is this working? What?
So that line 14 through 17 sets up like the template for all the scenarios down beneath it. Like we have a primary scenario. I don't know. I'm trying to find offhand, like how in these scenarios, like line 20 through 23, how do you override the template at that point?
Hang on.
Maybe it's like primary dot template.
On the args, can we not specify button text? So on arg or on line 15, can you change args to be inside of an object with a spread operator? ... args.
Why do you want to do this? We're not adding to our args.
I think that are you going to where we could set it as an arg for each scenario?
Yes.
So I think that arg stays. Maybe we go back real quick. Change your default button, like the text for default button,
to
and
like
maybe
what?
make that, do like a template syntax, right, in Angular, and then just give it a name like text. How about text? And now on line 22, put text colon, and then
I was going to give it default text is what I was going to do in line 15.
So it starts with something everywhere you use it.
Yes.
Yeah, you could do that.
It was already working that way.
No, but now for each scenario, if you wanted to make it a submit button, you could create another context. Is that what you were calling them, Justin?
Like scenario.
And maybe the secondary, and then you could change the text in there. Yeah,
so copy 20 through 23, duplicate that. Hopefully it'll work. Copy that, put it beneath there. Change primary to be like with
Fancy.
long text.
Oh. Okay. And then what?
And then just put some long ass text in that text on line 27.
But before doing that, you also need to change line 26 to with long text.
Yes.
Okay,
so what I'm hoping is that we've got our primary scenario. There we go.
Shut the front door. Okay, no, I don't know. Is this needed? Like this way is because your way was also working, but you're saying then we'd have to do this, and then we'd have to be like this, and then do different.
If you wanted to set up a template, like the template is like start all of my scenarios in Storybook like this, and then build from there.
Yes.
So that's what line 14 through 17 is doing, is saying, here's a story for a button component. Here's the template of how all the scenarios should start off with. And then when I go to build my scenarios, I can just tell it the different data or whatever it needs to build those scenarios, all starting from the same starting template, right?
We want to do, okay, can you help me with Fancy? Because Fancy is going to take anything and be anything. No? Yes?
In the content? Okay.
So here I got this stuff ready to go, and I wanted to like throw in, I wanted them to be able to like throw in an icon and then like fancy it up. So I'm trying
to do it.
How this works.
Copy that.
I copied it. I'm going to, where am I going? This one. How do we,
put it in that
I don't.
Text. Maybe we need to rename that from text to inner content or something, but yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea.
So you may run into an issue doing this.
There's no issues. This is flawless.
Flawless.
So Angular will try to sanitize that HTML that you're about to paste in there for the fans.
No, I don't think it's Angular. I think Justin said it was Storybook that was given hell issues with like SVG and line.
Storybook is just a way of saying, hey, I'm going to drive you. Yes. I'm going to drive Angular.
Was it not Storybook, Justin? I thought it was Storybook that was not like.
Yeah, that's a different issue though. That's
not.
It is. It's SVG as your component template. That was something different. Yeah. All right, you're gonna have I think the backticks here for your string, right? Because you want to do multi-line string.
You want me to do 3 backticks?
No, just one.
When in doubt, just backtick it out. Is that thing? I don't know.
I need a t-shirt. Hang on. Do you guys do the hanging commas?
It depends on what my ESLint rules for the particular repo has.
Oh.
I have opinions. I'm going to keep them to myself. I get yelled at for those opinions.
I need to know right now. Am I putting a comma here or not, people? Like, do we need commas? I need to know. Nobody's telling me.
I mean, you can put it there, but then when it auto formats, it'll probably make that decision for you.
Let's not talk about that. Let's go look and see what Storybook has done with what you've given it now.
Why is it such an angry thing? Okay, so I've got with long text. Ooh, fancy. Oh, that's gorgeous. That's exactly what I wanted. Shucks. Fix it, Mike.
Fix it?
Fix it.
Mike knows what it is. It's the fact that Angular is sanitizing it. Right?
Yes. Yep.
I put my commas before, not after. Does the variable miss the prefix on the main element? Ship it. Yeah, I'm with G Leader on that one.
Go back to what you've done.
This?
Yes.
This gloriousness that I have created?
Yep. Mm-hmm. So what essentially you want to do is not just put content within there. You want to override what you've put there. So take that whole text.
What whole text? This?
Yep. All that.
Uh-huh.
And I think what we can do is inside of bind, specify bind on line 29. And I'm guessing here. So we'll see if this works. So
this?
Yep. And okay, put a new line.
Rip this out and then go inside of bind and then be like.
Yep. And say template. Colon.
You know, like put the stuff in there.
But back to okay. Only one on the beginning, one at the end, and then paste. And you can get rid of inner content there. Although we need to do a little bit more.
I think you might need to wrap that with the button, right?
Yes. You need to surround all of that with what you have with your template up above. Template space AA dash button. No, not a stack.
Oh, not a stack. It comes out because you haven't answered my stack questions yet. I got him.
Try that. If that works, I'm going to mic drop and leave. It didn't work.
Why did it work? Oh, I don't even know why it would work. Because what? But also, maybe it's my comma.
Okay, let's try this.
It's not your comma.
Cut that template.
Blame Angular if we only use Vue. I don't know, man. Vue was not fun when I saw it last. Cut the template, like this whole thing. You want me to cut it?
Yeah, like you might need to do fancy.template the same way fancy.args is.
Oh, that's a good point.
Like we're trying to figure out, Mike and I.
No, in between, yeah.
Like how to use Storybook here for this. Yeah, it's like try fancy template. Yeah, equals. Yeah, and then what? Well, without the. Just to make it the string. Template equals the whole string, right? So you don't need an object in the template.
I understand.
Yeah, how about that? Does it like that? Doesn't like that. Maybe.
What does it say?
Template does not exist on type story button component. Who are you to tell me what exists on fancy button component? Okay.
All right.
Fancy args.
I think probably the.
Why can't we do it in here? Why can't we say this?
Because it's not an arg.
You didn't try it.
Scroll up.
Scroll up through my args. You're saying here?
Yeah. Well, maybe we don't have to use template.bind. Maybe we just create a whole new one.
I don't know what you're saying.
Be a new story.
Yep. Scroll up.
A new story?
Yes. So
a whole new story.
So where you have const template.
I'm going to delete this and paste that there so I don't lose it. Where I have const template, this guy. You want me to
14
just like
through 17.
This?
Grab all that.
And then instead of this template, we're going to replace it with that template.
No. Wait. Move all that down to the bottom. Okay. Wait. Yeah.
This one right here.
Different road, same destination.
Okay.
What's
and
wrong?
Just rename template to fancy.
Oh, fancy. You think so?
Yep. And then export that.
You can't make me.
The beginning of line 19.
I'm going to put it down here.
I don't think you need to export it. Do you need to export it?
I think so. Oh, you're talking about.
Hey, yeah, you're rolling. You're rolling.
Why are we doing this?
And then ditch that.
I don't know. You told me to do this.
I think ditch the inner content completely on that one.
Oh, okay.
Does it need the export?
It does. Well, no. Go back. So on line 41, you have template.bind. That needs to be fancy.bind. Or make it fancy template. Make that fancy template.
This? You want me to make that?
And then rename.
We're just making up stuff on the fly.
Nope,
I like it.
Go to 30. Go to 31 and make that fancy template.
Why do we want to do that? Does this need to be fancy template args?
Nope. You're good. So we created a whole new template of what's going to be driving this.
You want me to restart my stuff? You want me to restart it? Okay, I'll restart it. Yes, Alyssa, restart it. What's with all these spaces in my svug? I think.
What?
I'm just, backspacing improperly. Cool. I'm like one-lining this guy. Make him look more beautiful than he's ever looked.
Mm-hmm.
This is reserving bits. And I don't know, maybe this was not because of that. SVG icon happens to tag already and close another tag. Oh, is this disgusting? My button is closing. My icon is closing. Button, icon, SVG.
I think it was your space, that space that you removed.
That I had? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. He is pondering his life. Running target UI comment story filled. Why are you angry at me? Inner
Why don't you
content default button.
hold on, delete everything but the button there, and then go recopy your icon and SVG from wherever you grabbed it from. Wait, why is this yelling at you now?
It's mad at my inner content on with long text. Can I not have this const down here?
It's mad at line 22 as well.
Yeah, is it by order? Do I have to put this up higher?
No.
You sure?
Yeah. You're doing it anyway.
I'm not doing it anyways. It's not assignable, object literal. Yeah, it's ticked off at our inner content. Did we break that part of it?
Unless you're only allowed one story per. I will be right back.
Do you know, Dustin?
Let's see. Scroll up real quick, please.
To the top.
Let's look at our
leave it here. Go away.
Change that line 15. Like
to
change that
args?
to just do comma after args.
Okay. Woo. Sorry, I didn't mean to scroll. Comma after args, and then we want to add something or no?
Yeah, add inner content. And colon, and then just like an empty string. See if it likes that. If it's defining our props as having that. No, because that's args. Okay. So I think that can, like line 15 could probably just go back to being args. No object. Yeah.
Okay, let's try it.
Like it's just flowing through whatever the args are getting handed.
And this, can we do the same with this guy? Can we make him just?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, and then I'm going to retry, but I think we're still going to have issues because it's like angry. It's not assignable. Yeah. It's a partial button component. Object literal may at least no properties.
Because what the args are doing is it's trying to identify like your component, what inputs and outputs are on the component. And then those would be the ones that are available, right? So our component doesn't actually have an inner content. So like the args are specific around your component that you're storybooking, its inputs and outputs. And it gets like type safety or type inference from there. So like if our component had a text input, then you start typing text like on line 27, you would see it show up. But like in this case, we're trying to give a variable for our template that we're using. So the parent component that we're staging, we're trying to set up a custom template property for that.
Do you think I should comment out this and see if I can get it to run? Just to see if that's the problem that I'm defining two of them? It's like it's still yelling at us saying,
yeah, I mean, we saw it yelling before, but it was working, right?
So it's not assignable to type partial button component.
Why'd you break it?
It was working before. Why'd you break it? I did nothing. I just show up. Why, Webpack?
Can you scroll up for a second?
You want to see that error?
No, in your editor.
No, the editor.
Do we need to specify that it needs to have that input? Inner content? I know it was working, but maybe it shouldn't have been.
I don't know what you're saying.
We tried that. I think what the args are doing, or the args is Storybook trying to identify inputs and outputs of that component and surfacing those. And so like the args would be about the inputs and outputs. So if
it's not working now. It was working before. What did I break? Like even with this commented out, it is just yelling at us about the inner. I don't understand. Did I misname something? I've got with long text. I've got primary. Why are you angry? Yeah, because like all the SVG stuff, all of the extra templating, it's gone. It's just this. So why is it so mad? What did I do? You don't think it's because I have comments down here and it's like, no, that shouldn't.
So instead of using Angular to specify that, can you go to line 16?
Line 16.
And change inner content to args dot inner content, single curly brace with a $sign in there. Nope. Get rid of the parens.
Single curly brace with a dollar
No,
sign.
no. Get rid of those. Good. Now get rid of the character to the right.
That.
Yep. And go to the beginning of it and get rid of one of those and put a dollar sign in front. And we're going to make this a template string.
Oh, I see.
That goes on the outside. And then you have to get rid of the ticks and the ticks and make them back ticks.
You guys love your back ticks.
Template strings.
And then do I need to like define it on the args or something? Because it's angry. It doesn't exist. Hang on. Args.inner content. I guess do I need to do it up here? No.
This should fly.
This should fly.
Did you save this?
Yeah, I'm gonna rerun it. But also, I didn't know that. That's a fun saying. This should fly. I like that. Yeah, it was so weird though because it was working. I don't know what.
Oh, because it says that args is of type button content.
I mean, we had this working, and then we all of a sudden lost it. I don't know what I did. That was horribly, horribly wrong. You're running it. Yeah, the goat sacrifice. Yeah. Change back to text instead of inner content, said Mark. Control Z, all the errors. Oh, is it still yelling at us? What on earth? Okay, I think I like that idea from chat. Real quick, I'm just going to... I had it working like a hot second ago.
This is happening. Okay.
Fancy. Wait, what did we do wrong? Do you know what we did wrong? I don't know what we did wrong. Fancy before fancy. Let's just go back before I even thought of the word fancy.
Oh, there we go. Now I can see it.
Goodbye. Goodbye, fancy. There. Save it. Run it. And if this doesn't run, then because this was working.
The reason this works is if you go to the button component.ts, we specify input text. That's why it's working.
Oh.
But that's something we need to remove anyway, so that means that this would break. And the reason that happens is because when we specify on line 14 that args is of type button component,
yeah,
it's trying to validate against that type.
Okay.
So when we change text to inner content, it was no longer working.
Okay, so you're saying we need to go forward all the way in time, bring everything back, and then we need to go and get rid of our input, right?
No, I think our types for args of being button component needs to extend to be whatever a button component is plus more. So for args, change on line 14, change button component to any for right now.
This guy?
Yep.
You really think that's going to make it run?
Yeah.
No.
And also you can use story and not use the generic there.
Story. Where are you talking about?
Line 14.
Generic on line 14? This?
Yeah.
You're saying don't use story?
Get rid of the button component and all the other stuff there. Just get rid of the generic.
Oh, just say story.
Yeah.
You're so angry. You're so angry all the time. Is chat saying anything that I need to bring up? This is running Webpack. It's running. What about the black goat sacrifice? Right. Control Z, blah, blah, Angular over .NET. Interesting thoughts. I feel like we could do both. Why not both? Okay, so you're saying that it was working before, Mike, because
we had text defined on button component.
But you think that's not the way we should do it?
Well, we need to remove that anyway because we're not using that text.
Okay.
Right here in line 16, I think you got to roll that back to double braces inner content, right?
Okay.
Instead of args.
But hold on.
I will keep both so that we can understand our lives. Inner content. I think it was blippity blips. Yeah, we blipped it, and then we were like, mink, mink, and then we were like, right?
Yeah.
And then
comment out
comment
16
line
for now.
Yeah.
And then this is not backticks anymore.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
No.
Are you running yet?
When in doubt, backtick it out. Always.
A string is a string.
A string is a string. You hurt my brain with your slapping on the backticks anywhere. You're like, just put it. I don't like it. I don't like it. Does this take this long for you all? Is this just a me problem?
Sorry, I got a message I was trying to respond to.
Button primary. Okay, so we've got primary and long text. And then we commented out this guy. So I'm going to bring him back and see. He said take off the storybook. And he said replace this with any. And then I don't know if I need to change anything else. Fancy. Still angry. Set attribute element.
Which is interesting because I thought you got rid of all the fancy stuff.
Oh, no, I brought it back. It was this worked. And so I thought we could bring this back and then do what you told me to do, which is take that off and change that to any. Did I forget a part of it? Did I forget something? What did I forget?
So what you could try and do is move that template out and do fancy.template like we talked about.
Okay. It was in, where did we do that? We did that as
here,
just like here? No,
it was online. You could put that on 37 or sorry, between 38 and 39.
30. Oh, I see.
And do fancy.template.
Oh, not in here.
No, not in there. But it's still complaining that it's there.
Oh, is it? It's still angry?
Yeah. Does it need to be inside the bind there, Justin, do you think?
I think it was fine where it was. Like, I think, let's go back.
You're saying
what's it complaining about? Yeah.
It's set attribute's not a valid attribute name. This is not giving me errors. He's not doing anything. What did I
just grab like the icon element out of your fancy template. So it's just button AA button. Like grab everything out of there except for button AA button. Yeah. And then just let's see what it does in the browser. Yeah.
Yeah, it's happy. So it's because the SVG is there, the inline.
I mean, it could be something wrong with the SVG. Yeah.
Let's go to. I'm gonna go to the button component. I want to see. I just want to see it render. Actually, let's do this.
Yeah. See, it's complaining. I think that there's just something invalid in that SVG.
Not codependency. CodePen. I just want a code pen. Do I have to log in? Annoying. Just stretch. And then new pen. Pen. New pen. Why you no give me pen? Just give me a pen. Thank you. Okay. And then does it render? It renders. There's a Twitter bird. Black square. It's massive, but... And you guys have done, have you guys done SVG in this? Because I can save this for a different part, but I didn't know if that's something you have done yet. I know, Justin, you had different SVG Storybook issues. What was wrong with yours when you were?
Can we just work on solving the issue at hand?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I thought we were stymied.
No, we got this. We're almost there.
Okay.
Yeah, so hit enter a couple times. And then paste your SVG code there. All right, so let's look at that real quick. Is there anything invalid in here? Like, what's that data space dash space? Yeah, because it was complaining about template that starts with a space, a dash. So I think that formatting right there is what was jacking it.
It's not even set, so I don't even think it's needed.
All right. Now what does Storybook show us?
Cool. That's better.
Right.
Does it
Can we inspect that? Yeah, yeah. Is there SVG in there? Icon,
Yay!
SVG. We got it there. So I think we need to style it or.
Yeah, so that it shows. Thank you. So this is the right way then to do this, is to go ahead and create a new one of these, or I guess I'm a little confused on like when to create this new story versus when to export a different version, a different scenario of that same old story.
Yeah. So what I think it helps to think about in terms of when you're writing your stories for your component is you're really trying to write different scenarios of ways people might use it, right? And there's different ways that Storybook allows you to stage those scenarios. We can do it kind of like we do here, where we actually create, different scenarios where we call it like primary with long text. We can do it with knobs. They might be called something different now, but they used to be called knobs, where, the Storybook UI provides somebody the way to edit a form and change that on the fly, all these different things. But at the heart of it, what we're doing is we're saying we want to put our component in a situation where we can surface and show all the potential ways that somebody could use it, right? Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about this, we say, well, we could feed it just some regular text, or we could feed it rich HTML inside of it. Can we set up Storybook to help illustrate how that would be done, right? And so, like, what we're doing here is Storybook provides a couple different things, like the ergonomics of using Storybook. You can make it so that you're just saying Storybook my component, and then provide me a way to set the Angular component inputs and outputs on it, and real easy, right? And that's kind of out of the box. The lower level, you start with that. And then going up from there, you may say, well, I want to actually write the template from as if I'm a parent component using this component. And I want to construct the HTML for my story from hand. Then at that point, we're doing what we did here, which is defining the template, which is like thinking about the parent component that's going to use our component. You're actually writing the parent component's template content. So at that point, like we did, we actually put the button in our template. We actually put our selector attribute on that button as if we were creating a parent component that's going to render our component. Now we have full control in Storybook to say, well, we can, do our scenario of our parent component markup however we want to illustrate our button running in that.
Okay.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yes. I'm also getting feedback. I don't know if y'all are getting that. Is that me? Is that you? I just muted and unmuted mic. Oh, it was you. Okay. I thought it was maybe like a mic feedback issue. It is a mic feedback issue.
There's a garage door opener below my office.
Okay, I got it. Okay, so I think.
Look at that.
Yeah, I think on this guy, I'm just going to. Was there something in Angular about host going away, or is that fake news? That's not real.
NG deep was potentially going to go
went
away.
Right.
But okay. Host and host context, yeah, you're good.
They're fine. Okay.
So host context. So you talked about like variables, right? We could do CSS variables, or we could provide host context. Here, styling here is you say like somebody could use that on their button component. They could put a class of super dash fancy or something, and then you could write host context support in here for if that super fancy class is on our button, then do it styling this way, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I would hold off on doing this directly on button, but unfortunately I need to run, so I need to drop off. But it was great to chat about styling.
Yeah,
I do too.
Yeah, so thank you both for hopping on. We're gonna wrap up soon, but I really appreciate you both, and we'll be on this Friday on Angular Air. Yeah. So check us out on YouTube if you want some more Angular Storybook, NX, etc. content. So, bye boys.
Have a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you've got the pieces here now, right? You have different scenarios running, so you have kind of a foundation here that you can just rinse and repeat and start playing with and
What's the
figuring all that stuff
reason?
out. Yeah.
G Leader's asking what's the reason of using host rather than a wrap selector? I mean, host is the only way that I know you can like actually select that main. I mean, that main wrapping element, right? Because it's not just.
Yeah. So Angular provides a shim for it'll look at that. You know, when we have a emulated mode, it's going to look to see :host, and it's going to apply that styling to our elements selector tag, whatever we put our element for, right?
Yeah.
So we could certainly go into the CSS file or the Sass file and say button bracket AA dash button bracket and then style it. The benefit of the host is that it's agnostic to what we use for our selector when we're in emulated mode. So now let's say we change it from AA dash button to be AA dash R dash button. We don't have to update the Sass file to align with that text label change or the selector name change, right?
But you also like can't do this. Like if I wanted to, like, I know exactly what my host is going to be named, right? Like this isn't this it's not working.
What do you have in your CSS?
I just swapped out host for button AA button, but which is what these are being swapped out for. But it is my understanding of like, if you want to style that host element, see, this is button and it has that of AA button. It's like at the time of rendering or something, it doesn't know about it. So like you have to put it on that host selector in order for it to actually assign it to the wrapping element. Right? Like,
yeah, it's probably that it's emulated mode and it's doing that shim. So like if you change emulated mode to change it from emulated mode.
Where is that? Like, is that a setting somewhere? What is
in your component decorator?
In my component decorator here?
Yeah. So after styles URLs, do a new property, view encapsulation.
Oh, you're talking about turning view encapsulation off.
Yeah.
You say that weird because like view encapsulation, yes, that will totally work, but that's like not the way you were talking about emulator mode. I thought you were talking about like the way we're viewing it right now because we're not in production, but that's not what you're talking about.
No, I'm talking about Angular's emulator mode. So if you go back there and do the view encapsulation, you know, one of the options for view encapsulation is emulated, and that's the default, right? So I think it's view encapsulation view encapsulation. Yeah. And then dot. And so you'll see like,
so that
after view encapsulation, there's emulated. And so emulated is the default. Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying not do none. It's because I've never really understood the difference between none and emulated. Oh,
that's so emulated and its default. What Angular is doing is they're doing that shim to allow us to scope our styling to our components, right? So that when we write the Sass file or the CSS file for our component and we have emulated mode, Angular is going to take all of our CSS and it's going to apply this shim where it creates a unique ID for our elements inside of our component template that allows that scoping of that styling that we wrote to automatically be scoped to just those elements and to not bleed out beyond our component, right? And when we have that on,
it's not working though. Like I'm in emulated mode.
Yeah. So when you're in emulated mode, if you want to style the host element that is on, you use :host.
But
right?
that also works in the default mode, right? Like if you want,
I don't think so. Try it.
The only way to get away with I just did it. Like the default mode is right here. This one.
Oh,
the default mode is like
emulated. Yeah.
Right.
So I see. None.
So none and emulated are the only two options here. There's not like a third.
No, there's a third.
Oh, there is? What is it?
Back that out and just hit the period on view encapsulation. I think it'll tell you.
Shadow DOM. Have you ever used that?
I have.
What did you use it for? Because none will work. Like if you take it off of emulated and you change it to none. I didn't know emulated was default.
But you put it on none right now?
Yep.
So go back to your component, see it, the Sass file. You have it with the attribute selector, right? So change that to :host. Okay, now reload that.
Right.
So the :host is a thing for the emulated mode.
Right.
Right. So if we're in emulated mode in Angular, we do :host, and that will tell Angular, okay, I'm trying to target my host element, the element I'm on. If I turn emulated mode off, if I go to none or shadow DOM, then at that point I'm kind of back out of Angular shim, and it's my responsibility to style however I need to style. So then you're looking at targeting.
I had no idea it was called emulated by default. I always called it turning on or off view encapsulation, and essentially like using CSS with the trickle down or encapsulating your view to be isolated. And it makes more sense now. Like when it's emulated, I knew that Angular was giving us like access to :host and things like that. And then whenever you turn it off to none, you'll see it's like removed from the DOM. It's not doing that. But I didn't know it was called emulated mode and that it was default. Oftentimes I will just go ahead and disable this because I don't want the view to be encapsulated. Like I want it to inherit from everything else. But I know that goes against it's a very hot take. A lot of people want it to be isolated and so I don't know. That's just that. But you said, what did you use Shadow DOM for? That mode?
Shadow DOM, if you want to do the actual Shadow DOM, encapsulation at that level, it supports Shadow DOM. What's really cool, Storybook's like such an awesome tool because one of the things that can help with making that decision of, do you turn off emulated mode? Do you want it? Why would you want it? You set up Storybook, right? And you don't set up Storybook with any global styles. You just say, I got my Storybook. I take my component that I wrote in a non-emulated mode and I put it in Storybook. I could potentially automatically see none of the styling work because I then quickly identify that there's a dependency, a coupling on some global styles existing. So if I was to ship my component and say, you use it in your app, or in our scenario, use it in the website app and the scheduler app, if the global styles isn't for both of those apps, then our component won't work on its own. So are we building a component that's shippable and usable anywhere, or are we building one that's tightly coupled to where it's going to be used? And that's where the global styles versus the scoping and emulated mode start to come into play is, what is your intent with that component and the reusability of that component in different, apps, different places. And I think that's one of the powers that come with that scoping that Angular provides for us, is that we could construct components that come shipped with their styling that ensure that they're going to work wherever somebody uses our component, right? They don't have to ensure that I also have to add these global styles for it to work.
No, that makes sense. And especially in this mode where we are like taking it from one repo to another, it needs to be that way. So I see that. I don't know why Icon is refusing to be styled. He's very angry. But I know you have to go. And so I'm going to debug this and then wrap. But I really appreciate you coming on, and we'll be back Friday.
Awesome. I'll do one thing. So you probably have to do ng deep because it's content from the parent that's projecting in there. So look in your styling to do ng deep to style against that icon and stuff, and that might.
Oh, I thought we don't want to do that though, right? It's going away. Is that?
That is a super hot take. I really hope it doesn't go away.
Oh no!
I really hope it doesn't go away. Like, I don't see why we can't just keep it in there and have it available. There's several scenarios, and we've talked about it on the GD channels and stuff about where it's useful to have it. So it's still there. I'm using it, hoping that it remains there because
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that there's a big impact for it to still stay there, but we need it. I feel we need it. So anyways.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's not. So we are actually on the Angular Air YouTube Friday, and we'll be 2 hours earlier than this stream started, but feel free to join us. It'll be a good time on Angular Air. Useful things to be dropped. Yes. Too hard to read. Okay.
Thanks, Alyssa. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you letting me in here and talking a lot.
I
talked a lot. I'm sorry. Hope it was helpful.
No, it was so helpful. Thank you so much.
All right. See you Friday.
So we are going to go look up. So NGDeep I always avoided using because I was worried it was going to go away. But it looks like if my smart friend is using it, we should not fear using it. I think it's going to work just kind of like host. Yeah, like that. But it's like double. I don't really know why some get one. I would love to know, Chad, if you know this, why some get single colons and others get two. For things like this with selectors, I'm like, whenever we're doing pseudo selectors, I always get a little bit fuzzy in the face because I'm like, wait, yeah, CodePen, I'm okay with leaving. Okay, so let's go and see if we can get this to work. I don't know if NG deep would go before or after. Is it dash deep? I don't think it is. Is it? What was it? It is dash deep. Save. And then what's chat saying? The word pseudo selector makes me confused. Thanks, G Leader. I'm glad you learned something today. I love. It's funny we're talking about view encapsulation. I often disable view encapsulation, and I know it's like a super hot take, but I just with these JavaScript frameworks, often many times they want to isolate view and they want it to be like to me it gives permission for people to write bad styles because you don't have to worry about what the other components are doing. You don't have to worry about your base style sheets. You don't have to worry about any of that. You just start from scratch in your own little isolated component and you ship that and you're done. And to me, it's a very dirty way of thinking about styling on the web. I feel like it's going in that direction, but I also feel like it's hella lazy. And so you go on a rant for that for days, but that's why I often will disable view encapsulation in my Angular components because I want to have global styles that trickle down to everything. And I want, if I like I want that interdependency, that cascade that CSS gives us. So, hot take. Okay. Component styles, NG deep. Did it work? It did work. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a note to myself real quick. Tab. To do Alyssa. This is how I've always done to-dos. And I do need to push up so that the boys have this stuff for Friday. How would you do this without NG deep? So if we do deprecate NG deep, I want to understand why we need NG deep to style the icon. I think I understand what he was saying about it being projected and it's like an inner element, but I want to make sure I really understand it. Also, we need some primary text on that sucker. The point of CSS is to cascade? ? I mean, it's in the acronym. And that's how it inherently works. It cascades. One thing inherits from another thing. You know, certain things have more power than other things and they override each other, but they all work together. It's all, at the end of the day, one big style sheet that your app puts together. And it is meant to cascade. Okay, so let's get some default text on this sucker. And then I need to eat some sushi. What time is it? It's 2:40. I'm hungry. Okay. Lightness. I actually, real quick, before we go on, I wanted to see if scale color has, does it have I don't think it has darkness. I think there's like a darken mix in. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start scale from scratch and see what options we have. Color, red, green, blue, saturation, lightness, alpha. Zach, are you here? Should I go negative on lightness to go to darken, or should I stop using scale color and use like a darken mix in? Does that make sense? Because I think if I did negative on lightness, maybe this is blasphemy. It would go darker. Yeah, it's going darker now because I'm negative 10% on lightness. There's also, for those of you who are like, what is she talking about? There is a darken one, I believe. I think Sass is darken bad because it skews the color in a way that's not natural, right? Scale keeps the hue the same, whereas darken is going to take it away from its original color. So I'm actually going to do negative 10 on the lightness. And we can talk about it in chat if that upsets you in like a, deep way. NG deep. Is this a blasphemous stream? I like it. True, but I also see the point of defending your stuff from leaking styles. Yeah. Yeah. I think the viewpoint of inherited CSS and cascading styles and all that is it is for a team that has at least one person on it that loves and knows CSS and understands it really, really well. If you have a bunch of front end devs and a bunch of back end devs, but none of them really do actual like markup, they're more like, I've seen front end devs that call themselves front end devs, but they're more of like the back of the front ends. Like isolated styles might be safer, or it really depends on your project and who's working on it. But I've seen it done really well where you use, in my opinion, how CSS should be used. But most of the internet disagrees with me. I think it's going away from that. So we'll see. Oh, all right. We did ng deep. I don't need you anymore. This is our site. I need some text on this guy. I'm not really happy with how we did this, because what I really wanted to do was I just wanted to make fancy template another export. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can get away with fancy, and then, yeah, we're exporting that. So we get rid of that, and then I'm going to copy this and comment out that and comment out that, and then go back up here. And then instead of inner content, we would do, I think that's what we did. But instead of, and then we don't need button, I don't think, because it's putting my content. I just want to see if this will work. But it probably won't. I remember we were getting crazy amounts of issues before. Oh, right. That's right. It wasn't rendering. And so we have to export it. Hang on, let me see. So we have to export it in the template so that it knows, render this stuff. Okay. Because the way that Justin was talking about it was like, it's just a choice of how you're sharing these based on, but I feel like we have to do it this way because of the SVG. Okay. I'm going to get some content next to this. What is this? Inner content. So I think we're going to plop inner content right here. Inner content. But I didn't give it inner content, right? So we need to give it the primary, this guy, bits, I think. So I want to see text next to it. And then I want to go ahead and style this guy. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to choose ng icon. I wanted the fancy stuff to be fancy separate, because I was thinking about doing like this and going down here and being like fancy styles. This is for buttons that unique, and then we're going to put them in quotes, buttons, because it's like essentially when you have elements that are not buttons. And then we're going to go ahead and choose host again, because getting rid of view encapsulation will upset the other people on this project. And then the host itself needs to be display flex, and that will give flex direction row by default. I don't want a gap. I guess I do want a gap, but I don't. Gap of. Oh, we need our variables, because I was going to say gap of squirrel. We need a squirrel gap, which means we need to import. Oh, we should have that from common styles. Perfect. So that gave us that gap right there. In order to line them up on the correct axis, I always have to test it out to find out which one. Center, align items, center. That's it. We want the align items. I know. I should probably have it memorized, like which one does which axis, but I do not. Align items, center, and then I was thinking about doing something funky, where on the icon side of life, I got rid of the padding. Top, right, bottom, left. 10 pixels, top, right, bottom left, like making the icon. Because if you recall on Angular Air, this thing. I don't really like those styles. I was actually going to change this button, but I was thinking about in my head, and let's just test it out in the dev tools here real quick and see. We're going to make the width real, like maybe that big, and then the button, does it have any? We're actually going to say padding 0 on this guy, and then who's giving us space? Does the icon itself have padding? And this is just to mock it out and see what it would look like. It doesn't have it. Why are you like this? Is that built into the icon? Icon SVG. I'm wondering if like the view box on the SVG is causing this extra space here. No, because if you look, well, the path itself is clean. What's going on? Oh man, view box bugs are so fun to debug. I know nothing of Angular. What is a selector for that matter? What is a pseudo element? Cool. Yeah, let's talk about it. So this in CSS is a selector. Well, there's a pseudo selector. So whenever you style something and you're like, hey, I want my button to have blue text. Button is the selector in CSS, right? That's the way that you're selecting the element. There's lots of ways of selecting an element. It can be with this fun Angular-y host pseudo selector guy. It can be with the element itself. It can be with the class. It can be with the ID, right? Like it can even be with, like, it has an attribute of right? Like it can be lots of things, but that's the selector when we say selector. Pseudo selector is for things that either don't exist, like before or after. And I actually used, and they're pseudo because they are DOM elements that you can utilize, but they aren't, they're not real. Let me show you what I mean. Right here. This guy, I'm going to make him, I'm actually going to go back to the normal size. This is the normal size, might be a little bit small, but this guy was some fancy work that I told you I stole from John Papa, and then I manipulated myself. But if you notice, he has a border. It is a gradient. And let's go ahead and make, I'm going to go and show you real quick. I want his border to be really big. So instead of 1 pixel, let's try making this 3 pixels. Is that going to move us away? Okay, so it's kind of hard to see because it just goes from blue to light blue, but the border is a gradient. And that's not really possible in CSS. So you have to hackily do it. So I'm going to turn off this background color so you can see it's really just an element that has a gradient on it. And then we are using the before and afters. And we're giving a background color of white to the after. And then the before, of course, is the thing that is holding our beautiful blue gradient that we could have gotten crazy with, but we just did that. So let me show you. If I go to one gradient in Parson here, and I click on this, and I'm going to make it something like ridiculous, like yellow or orange. And there you can start to see it right there, where we're going from blue to orange in that background color. So anyways, pseudo elements before and after, also things like state, like hover or active or inactive, just ways of styling. And I'm going to go back and turn this to blue, and let's see what we're doing. I was styling. I need to figure out why my stack is not gapping. I don't think it's actually passing. When we have AA stack horizontal, yeah, it's not passing those styles. I'm wondering, I think this might be a view encapsulation issue, actually. If I go here, I think I need to replace, because instead of AA stack, I either need to turn off Angular's view encapsulation or replace, which it is AA stack, but yeah, that's what I needed to do. So now we have that gap And if I change this back to not so massive, you will see these, each one of these is a stack. And so it's getting a gap between them. So if I back up to what I had before and I just put it back to AA stack, and I go here and let that refresh, you'll see that the link right here is on the same line. These aren't in a row. And so back. Save that. Cool. I think, I mean, it's a little better. Do you usually use PX? I love that question. My OCD mandates me use REMS. So me and my husband are huge CSS nerds. We love talking CSS. He's the one who got me into web development, and he loves the front of the front end. And he was telling me the other day, because I was like, I have stopped using REMS. I've stopped using just any other unit M's, any other unit other than pixels. And I was like, and I'm pretty sure that's okay. And he agreed with me. He was like, the reason that we used to use REMS and M's because of like issues in the browser is no longer an issue. And for me, like readability and understanding, like, especially like, let's go to my common styles here. When you're looking at like my sizes and then what I'm doing with those sizes, if I'm scaling them based on that, it's a lot easier to understand someone's styles if it's pixels, because it's just like a singular unit versus like unit based off of a pixel that might not be on that style sheet, right? So for me, I use pixels everywhere, and I think it might be a hot take in some camps. Okay, so we've got our fancy button. I need to do a little bit more work on this because I have a moral quandary with making these buttons. They are taking you away from the page. They should be anchors. So I'm going to talk to the guys about that. I really hate buttons that aren't buttons. I loathe them. I think that was coming across. It wasn't that I so much hate Shorty's design here. It was just the semantics of it. But we have a fancy button. We have a primary button. We have a button with long text. Rem equals root element, usually 16 pixels. Flex is handy. Oh, I love flex. I thought pixels cause issues depending on resolution, like retina displays. Hey, Turtle. G-Litter is saying that he thought that pixels cause issues depending on resolution, like retina displays. But is that, you were saying that you thought browsers fixed all pixel REMS related issues?
I'm pretty sure
the latest browsers you think have fixed it? Of course, we don't support anything other than the latest. Alyssa loves to flex. I love how people use flex, Mark said, and then flex direction column instead of just using grid, which is column by default. I think for this, I really wanted, I see what you're saying. And I actually am getting into grid more and more. For this, for that stack element, I have to style his stuff. I actually really need to get in there and clean that up. For this, I wanted to make stacks that were flexy, and by default, they would be columns. And so it's just giving that gap for me and that ability to go, be horizontal or be vertical. But so I didn't want to, if I go show my stack here, I guess we could, instead of saying, hey, also if you're horizontal, be a grid. I mean, let's try it. Let's see what would happen, because we would have to change it to display grid. And then you're saying it would, flex direction would be invalid. The gap would still work. So I'm getting a call from spam risk. I better answer it. So you'll see we didn't get the same functionality, because what I wanted was, I wanted the goal is to get whatever is in this stack to go from being in a column to being in a row. And that's what flex direction row gave me. But now I am in a grid. And so I'm going to have to, I think I'd have to define a little bit more in order to get the functionality that we want. Make this bigger, and this can go back to bigger. Okay. I didn't see that. Okay, cool. No, and I do love grid, Mark, and I've recently like started getting into it more, and I plan on using it for this. We're going to build out, I don't know if you saw the views that I'm going to be working on. One of them is trying to get to my desktop. One of them is like, obviously, like he's going to be gritty. And I don't know, gritty. And then this whole page here, I think I'm going to, this is the hard part, is like, if I'm just making it exactly like Calendly has it, like this would be a great use for a grid, because then on mobile, I would want, you know, this to flow into like underneath or above it. And for the grid to go from 2 columns to 1 column, right? And that's super easy to do and really responsive. And grid, I've recently like gotten into using grid instead of defining like media queries to have that responsiveness. And so I love grid. But the hard part about what I'm doing right now is I'm kind of like designing on the fly as I steal things. So I'm like, yes, we want to do it how Calendly did it, but also I have to keep in mind our Angular Air existing styles and try to mesh those. So anyways, you know, I think this was a really good episode, though. We got quite a bit done. I'm going to change this back to, I will be using grid, though, later on. And then I need to push up to main. Then it would need justify self. What is, hang on. Grid justify self? I don't know if I've used that. Justify self. Stretch center start. So you would say justify self. What do we say? Stretch? Sorry, I know we're going off on a tangent, but I wanted to try and see what Mark's talking about. Would you display grid? And then if I go back to our buttons and tell them to justify. How you do it now is okay. Yeah, for these, I'm going to keep them that. I just wanted to see center. Ah, I see. Justify self. That's really cool. I did not know about justify self. That's really cool. I hadn't used that yet. Okay, I'm gonna make a note here of play around with grids justify self. I'll probably do that on a different view that actually needs the grid. Go away, save that. I think we're ready to push up. Fancy, that. Yes, that. Then I need to clean up the other views. And I don't even know if I want to do this fanciness with the background border gradient, but we'll see. Dark mode is better than it was. Oh, I don't like that what they did to MDM. I had no idea. I'm gonna be real honest with you that we were on MDN. Because look at this. It looks so different. I don't know. You don't like it? I didn't realize that's what we were on. It's pretty. It's clean. It helped me get my answer. I don't know. You don't like it? Are you G Leader? Are you one of those? It's like, I really prefer, what's the site that's like this? It's not eBay. Craigslist. Are you the one that prefers how Craigslist is designed too, intentionally? Okay, let's push this up. And what is my terminal? Where are you? Okay. LS, yeah. Status. Oh, I've modified so much. Okay. And please forgive me if this hurts your sensibilities. I usually do try to do smaller commits, but I have just been swamped. So we're just making one big commit. Clean up, stack, button, and one other thing that I can't remember what it was. Episode detail view. Yet status branches ahead of origin main. Cool. Git push origin main. It failed. Git stash. Git pull origin main. Colon. Write and quit. branches ahead of order by 2 commits. Git stash apply. Git could not restore your untracked styles from stash. Storybook already exists. Did it actually? Oh, pickles. Ugh, hang on. I might have to not bore you with this merge if it didn't go cleanly. Your branch ahead of blah 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 stash apply. These code settings already exist. No checkout. Could not restore untracked files from stash. I wonder if I do like -u or something. Sometimes I still use both. Hot take. GitHub Copilot will replace Stack Overflow for many other devs. Are you on it, Fuel? I haven't. We want to get bored with this. I use dark mode in the afternoon. System settings. Hope they never change Stack Overflow. I don't like the different look. I signed up to get on autopilot. Like I'm on a wait list. I don't know. I wonder if I need to check back in. I thought they'd email me when I got access. Okay, let's find out what I did wrong. Could not restore untracked files from stash. Can I do get stash apply -u? Is that a thing? No, option for untracked files. Cannot apply. I don't know what I did. Files from stash. What the flip? To stash to temporary branch. Oh, do I have to do that? Apply your stash. Get stash apply. Ow. Delete untracked files and stash remaining files. How to fix it. Okay. Head by 2 commits. Get push to publish. I don't know what I did wrong. Pushing that up. Get status. I don't know if I have anything else. See if it actually worked. Why are you red? Yeah, it's super angry at my prefix because in Angular, I didn't fix in our project where we're specifying our prefix. So that's why the linter is like, I hate you right now. But it looks like everything else is there. All of our other changes. Perfect. Oops, I pushed that up. Lols. Cool. Status. Well, I don't know what I was trying to do, but it's all there and applied. Commit message is clean up non-used styles. Hit push. Main. Perfect. Well, we'll be back on. What are you saying? I'm going to remove my screen so that we can see what you're all saying. Have a beautiful, beautiful Monday. Or if you're already in a Tuesday, that too. Mwah! Bye, everybody.